Welcome back to Where in the World, where we have real conversations with young professionals about life and career, all while attempting to guess where in the world they are. We'll learn something new about our guests and what it's like to forge your own career path as a young professional. When we say young, we're really talking about a state of mind. You'll learn by watching this web series that your career will take many dips and turns over time, and just when you think you've made it, you might have to scrap it all and start from scratch. Sometimes that's the way it goes. We ride the tide. I'm your host, Clary Johnson, and I'm joined today by Wayne Pelletier, who is founder of Resonant Pixel Co., where his team delivers expert Squarespace web design. The big hairy question we're asking today is, how can young professionals know if the military is the right career path for them? But before we jump in, let's do some housekeeping. This is a mini web series game show. The questions will range from standard interview like questions to more personal questions about our guests' careers. You'll notice we're both here today with different backgrounds. In between questions, we'll each have an opportunity to guess where in the world the other person is. The first person to guess correctly wins. Our guests can ask for clues along the way, and our audience can also help out by asking for clues in the chat. So please join me in welcoming Wayne. Hi, Wayne.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Cool. Well, Wayne, you and I met last year at Squarespace Circle Day. I
Yes.
remember hearing you speak and thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I've got to get to know this guy. So I approached you at the end of the event, and I'm so glad I did. Over the past few months, you and I have had an opportunity to get to know each other and collaborate on some digital products or projects. You have so much insight and wisdom to share, and I can't wait for our listeners to learn from you as well.
That is super generous. Yeah, I absolutely loved hearing you speak and was like, when this thing's done, like we got to grab a drink, we've got to get caught up, we've got to touch base on ways we could probably or possibly connect or collaborate in the future, just because there's just something about being around really sharp people.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you find someone that you are in alignment with, whether it's business or personal. And
Right.
so I've really enjoyed finding that alignment because a lot of times the world of business or being in your own world of what you do can get a little lonely. So when you meet someone who can really understand what's happening and can really relate to what you're going through, it's pretty awesome.
It's all true, I swear.
Yeah. Well, let's get started with our most commonly asked interview question. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I was born a very, very small child. No, I absolutely came up fast doing lots of art stuff, bicycling, getting around town, having a great time, and was a little rambunctious as a child. And when I got a little older, I struggled to find my way a little bit. I went in the military, best decision I ever made. And when I was done with my military service, I got into what I have from a career standpoint now, this line of work of creating websites and really graphic design, art direction type stuff. But that's the high level. I think you're muted.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit more about what that transition was for you, like from the military back to civilian life?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, well, it's a little bit different for everyone. So I want to be cautious not to use too many blanket statements, though it's really easy to speak in generalizations. The military is an interesting sort of insular environment, and it kind of has its own culture. And when you're exiting that and transitioning to civilian life, you quickly learn that you don't necessarily always speak the language. There is a barrier because a lot of the things that you want to tell stories about, you're speaking in acronyms, right? Military specific acronyms. This I'm not going to throw a bunch out. I almost did, but But a lot of times, especially in modern times here, 2024, but really for the past 25 years or so, a lot of the people exiting have also been in traumatic situations, right? So there's a lot of PTSD and some challenges that separation can complicate that separation. So I certainly experienced that. So my separation was pretty difficult transition, and it took some time to kind of figure out what comes next. Some military occupations have direct correlation to civilian occupations. Not all of them. My job was small arms repair, so unless I was going to work in a pawn shop, probably not really applicable. So I was kind of building from scratch. What do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? Even though I was 24 years old, like 25 years old, something like that. So it was like I found my way through just getting out. So, like, the first thing I did when I got out was go to bartending school, like this little certificate course in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I just figured maybe I could get a job tending bar because I'm outgoing, I am extroverted. It just seemed like it was doable. And I had been in a lot of locations around the world where I had experienced lots of different types of bar scenarios, situations. And I had some history with, mixing cocktails or something like that in the barracks and stuff. So I think it was a natural sort of transitions like this I'm comfortable with. So I did that, and I took my certificate and I walked right into this like Four Seasons hotel, or I don't remember what it was called, Sheridan Four Seasons, I think it was. And I was like, I'm certified. Give me a job as a bartender. They were like, okay. Apparently, it's not that hard. So it's fine. So I did that for a while, and then I sold meat. That was a terrible idea. It wasn't like door to door. It was like they would call ahead and schedule an appointment, and I would just walk into people's homes and disappoint them that half of what they were going to get was chicken wings because they couldn't afford all the steaks. But that, I think that's still a reality. And then I was so sick of being on the road, I just pulled into a car dealership and said, I can sell, but I'm sick of driving all over Massachusetts. Let me sell cars. And they said, okay. So apparently that's not hard to do either. And I sat there and sold cars for a few months. Learned I didn't really enjoy that work. Valuable life lesson, but that led to doing what I do now, which was my stepfather, right? A little nepotism, my family business of making websites that actually started in the mid 90s. And he was like, my stepfather was like, hey, why don't you come just help me out? Like, make sure the conference room has water when there's meetings, follow up emails, do cold calling, work with my calendar, just like virtual assist, like what you would hire a virtual assistant for other than the conference room water. And just, I think it was like 18 grand a year. It was, I think I got host. But anyway, long story short, that was what that transition looked like. So that's that's how I landed on what I do today, really.
Yeah. I mean, so I was having so much fun listening to you because it's so interesting. I think so many of us are so intentional about our careers. I know for me, I was very like I had to find the right position that
Mhm.
felt exactly like what I wanted to do, that sounded like what I wanted to have, the title that I wanted to have,
Yeah.
that was at the company that I wanted to work for, or even when I was choosing colleges, being really specific about what ranking that college was, where it was located. And when I'm listening to you talk, it sounds like so much of your career has been not by chance, but kind of just like going with the flow. Like, oh, I was just driving and I pulled into this car dealership and I asked for a job. Or,
Yeah.
my stepdad just was like, hey, you want to come and hang out and
Hang
try
out in the
something new.
office,
Yeah,
make
like
coffee.
make $15,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like your career has almost been effortless in a way, and I'm sure maybe that it doesn't feel like that, but when I'm
Yeah.
listening to you, it sounds like there's like just this natural progression and natural transition, and I think there's something we can all learn from that of just about again going with the flow, riding the
Right.
tide, and just accepting opportunities and just checking them out. Maybe this is a good fit, and then learning that okay, maybe it's not a good fit, maybe I don't actually like this work, but allowing that to guide you and lead you toward what's in more alignment. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that story and being so detailed and vulnerable about it. But speaking of transition, I've got to know where in the world you are. So I'm just going to describe what I'm seeing
Okay.
for our listeners who may not be watching. Um, it's a really beautiful background, guys. So what we're looking at is Wayne is our Vanna White, and we've got some. It's so funny. I would say 90% of the guests who come on the show pick a place that's near a body of water. There is a body of water here. It looks like a canal, if I were to describe it. And actually, what's really cool about this is there is a building. It looks like in the center of this canal with two bridges that are stretching on either side of it. Um, there is on one side of the bridge on Wayne's my right, Wayne's left. There looks like there's some orange colored buildings. Looks like maybe some clay style. Like if you could think of a clay color, that's what it looks like. And then on the left, or my left and Wayne's right, we've got some. It looks like two different types of building structures. One is white with red, and at the top, and the other one is kind of behind it, running vertically. And then it looks like it's just wisps of blue sky. Like this is gorgeous. And in our foreground, we've got some red flowers and some yellow flowers. And then there's some green on this. It just feels very lush. Oh,
This would be springtime with all these flowers, right? Spring or early
yeah.
summer. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels springtime, which I appreciate because let's leave this winter behind.
I'm feeling it. It's 75 degrees in Atlanta today.
Man. All right. So, I mean, I've got to just guess that you are not in the United States. Are we not? If so, well, let me guess. We're not in the United States.
That would be correct.
Okay, that's correct. Um, ooh, are you in Denmark?
You're going for it. I love it. I am not in Denmark. Isn't that a joke? We are not in Denmark
We are not
anymore.
in Denmark anymore.
It's from a movie, I think.
Well, Wayne, can you give me
Skips
a
me.
clue about this place?
Well, a clue. Let me think on that because clues might give it away pretty easy. Not that I care whether or not it's easy or difficult. I don't know if that makes it more or less fun, but you could say that there is a deep culture of excuse me of flowers and gardens and castles
Ooh.
and that there are lots of different types of beverages
Oh.
brewed with hops.
Ha ha! I think I know where we are. It's definitely giving Sherlock Holmes vibes.
Sherlock Holmes? I
Yeah.
didn't get that at all. That's awesome.
If it were more dark and broody,
Yeah, you have to have
I
gray
think
skies for that, I
beverages.
think.
All right. Well, Wayne, it is your turn to guess where I am.
Um, well, considering how much ice and snow coverage there is on the slow, dramatic slope down into the water, and that there is an icy island, I would venture to guess a glacier. And I don't know what is over your left shoulder. That would be I don't think that's a glacier. That looks man-made because the top is so flat. That's interesting. So you, I'm guessing, are likely not in the US.
We are not in the US.
Yeah. There's only like one place in the US could be. So I would say that there is a good chance you are in the Nordic region.
I am not familiar with my regions, but I'm gonna look it up. I'm almost positive this is in the Nordic region, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure that it is in
Is it
fact
Greenland?
on the list. We are in Greenland, but
Nailed it.
your goal is to guess where in Greenland I
Oh my gosh. Well, Greenland's like four towns, fishing villages, not
Well,
even
with that
town.
being said, next question.
All right.
All right. So prior to this interview, you said you didn't think you were college material. You didn't take books home or do
I didn't say
homework.
that.
What did you say?
My father said that.
Yes.
But it relates to what you were saying earlier about how well, I guess you used the word effortless, but the idea that you were very intentional about choosing schools and course of study and companies that you aspired to work at or work with is being such a contrast to my sort of early career, which was related to this really terrible, I don't know if it's advice, but like bad input that I got as a child, right? So I think a lot of people are sort of told what their next steps are. Sometimes it's like you're going to go to this college, as simple as that. Or and maybe you do or don't have a choice. You got to fight that. I think a lot of young individuals do. Or you're going to study this because that's your strength, and you just start studying it and kind of not do what you're told, but you definitely are guided down a path, right? Like my parents definitely had that. I was just like, oh hell no.
You talked about having a teacher who believed in you and positioned you to
Yeah.
succeed. With that, in parallel to the things that you were hearing at home, can you talk about the importance of having people or leaders in your life
Mm.
who want to see you succeed and want to help you down your path?
Yeah. I think so. There are people you meet in life, and honestly, there's only a few that really see you. It's like they see your mind, they see your insides, they see your heart and your intentions. There aren't a lot of them. A lot of people, you get a lot of great surface relationships. And then there are a few you build deep, friendly relationships with, and they really get to know you, like you, and trust you. And they're different personally and professionally. Kind of they get to different levels. Um, and we all have our own comfort level with how close we're willing to let people get, right? So I don't want to discount that. But when it comes to when you're young and it comes to mentors, be them family members or teachers or instructors in a thing, or your boss, or a drill sergeant, or someone who just outranks you in any sort of military occupation, those people are invaluable, because a mentor, regardless of what the role they fill in your coming up, they're showing you where the potholes are, right? They're giving of themselves, and they're sharing their experience in a way that is sort of like giving you a bit of a map. And when someone's willing to do that for you, sometimes you recognize it right away, and sometimes you don't. You see it years later. It's always different. But I think that those experiences are extraordinary and valuable. And I'm very fortunate to have had a couple of those and it's not lost on me.
Yeah. I think what's so powerful about this conversation is that there's something about being able to learn from your allies and being cheered on by mentors and people who want to see you succeed.
Mhm.
And there's also something about learning from negative feedback or, maybe they don't necessarily not want you to succeed, but maybe they don't believe that you can do the things that you want to do. Maybe it's based on their own
Right? Yeah. They're
situation or what they
they're
were told when they were growing up. But you can
oh yeah,
still learn, but you still learn from that, right? That type of relationship or interaction
yeah,
can also steer you. And I can definitely think of times when it was kind of the negative feedback that I got that
yeah.
really pushed me in the right direction or in a direction that where I grew, and it hurt. It was painful,
Right.
but it was almost necessary. Um, and then I can remember times in my life when I've had mentors that cheered me on, and that's exactly what I needed at that time. And that pushed me towards a growth path as well.
Yeah, I think you have to be pretty mature to recognize and properly leverage the negative style of that feedback, right? Because there are people that will put their ceiling over you.
Mm,
And getting past that requires some level of self confidence and maturity that when it's done when you're very young, it is a mountain to climb to get out of that, right? Lots of people are in therapy because of it, right?
mm,
But when you start to see the patterns, then you get to decide, how do I want to use this information now?
mm. And that's a great question. And I actually have a question for you later about the kinds of questions we should be asking.
Mhm.
But before we do, I mean, I feel like I've kind of cheated. You gave me a lot of clues in the last one. You gave me multiple.
You're going back to my background.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, you must
A lot
be
of clues.
you must be in Germany.
I am in Germany. I knew the minute I said, I didn't want to say
Beer.
beer, I said hops, because really that narrows it down with this building style. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
So tell us why you chose Germany.
I still am a big fan of Germany, German culture. I had a really, really great experience there. It was my first duty station, permanent duty station when I was in the army. Right out of training, they sent me to Bamberg, Germany, this little base in this. It's not a particularly big city. I think, I don't know, I haven't looked on Wikipedia, maybe 20 or 40,000 people. So like, a decent mid-sized city in the States too, right? So it's easy to imagine that. And the unit I was assigned to had just gotten back from Desert Storm, right? We're in the early 90s. This is 91. And um, I was hazed out of the wazoo because I wasn't in Iraq with them. But we and I mean we, like me and some of the people that I lived with in the barracks building, would constantly go out and explore. So there are castles and there are gardens and there are really, really incredible, just historic streets and cobblestone streets, and a downtown that was both thriving and historic. And there was lots of different types of music and beer and food. And I really didn't come home for 2 years, for not for a day, not for anything. So it was amazing, and I'd love to get an opportunity to visit again. I'm not really sure why I haven't, but um, it's just, it's near and dear to my heart. This town of Bamberg, I really love it. I'd love to get back, so that's why I pulled this image up, because it was inspiring.
Well, my brother also served in the army, and Germany is actually where he had my niece. So,
What?
yeah, and I haven't visited Germany yet, but I hear it's definitely a place to visit, and it's on my list.
It's gorgeous, and I found the people to be incredibly nice. I made several friends with local people that worked and hung out different local local watering holes, and just incredible. I had a
Very
great time.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, with that, Wayne, it's your turn to guess again where I am. So, I mean, technically, you've already guessed that I am in Greenland, but the mission is to guess where in Greenland I am.
Yeah, it's the glacier piece that's throwing me off, like that piece of ice. I have flown over Greenland
Mhm.
to and from visiting Iceland.
Well,
um,
can I give you a clue about this place that might help you?
sure.
Okay. So, this place was actually built in 1951, and it has a 10,000-foot runway.
Ah, I see. Hmm. That would have to be like capital city or something. That would have to be like I can't pronounce it even if I wanted to find it.
Well, think about it. We're
All their
not
words have
against.
like three Q's in them. Nuck, nuke.
Wait, is that how you pronounce it? Hold on. Oh no, that's not it. That's not it. It does have an odd name that I'm
Mm,
pretty sure I'm gonna butcher. But before you guess again, it's time to ask the next question.
go for it.
Before this interview, you said a lot of us focus our careers on our vision, and it's almost always a reflection of self, and it's an internalized reality that has yet come to pass. Can you tell us more about that?
I said, what?
You were getting deep.
I do. I tend to do that. Say the beginning again.
You said, I'll see if I can shorten it. You said a lot of times we focus on our careers, or our vision for our careers, and our vision is often a reflection of an internalized reality that
Yeah.
we see for ourselves.
Yeah, it really is. And you kind of touched on it. You had aspirations for specific schools
Yeah.
and course of study and companies that you were inspired to work with. And while I didn't have that specifically, that doesn't mean that as a young designer that there weren't brands I really wanted to work with, or agencies I really wanted to work at, or types of projects that I really wanted. And one of the challenges we have as we're going through life and hitting on these successes, right, is we can be driven, and sometimes it's a little bit of not seeing the forest through the trees, not appreciating all of the small wins. So we'll come out of that and say, well, this sucked, this sucked, this sucked, and not appreciate that in between each one of those were 1,000 micro wins and things that went our way that we expected. But just because we expected something to go well or go our way doesn't mean it isn't deserving of being appreciated and
Mhm.
stacked up.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of kind of my philosophy about failure, which is that I don't believe in failure. I don't believe failure exists.
I love that.
And the reason why is because in well, actually, it's actual very specific reason why. So the old English definition of failure means is to do nothing at all, and it's actually evolved over time to mean what we've assigned it to mean, which is not reaching your goals. But my view on it is that if I attempt something and it doesn't go my way, maybe I've learned something that can help me find the
100%.
way.
100%.
Or maybe I've learned to do something differently.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe I've learned that there's a better way. And
Yeah,
so if that's the outcome, then that's successful.
absolutely. That just goes in your bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was foot clapped.
So I I hear what you're saying, and I'm it's definitely resonating with me.
I love anytime someone uses that word. I literally just made a YouTube short about this, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, about how every outcome there's a positive takeaway. So maybe things didn't go the way you intended, but maybe the issue was maybe you shouldn't have intended it, or maybe the intention wasn't accurate. We never blame that, right? We just say, "Oh, this didn't go the way I want," like because all our problems are external. They're not. So it's like, hey, this was something that played out in a way that I didn't expect, but oh my gosh, I've got so much good takeaway from it. I learned this. I can leverage this in this way. I can save this idea for later. I know next time. There are so many takeaways and things that I guess quote unquote fail, to use a bad term, but yeah, it's interesting, but that's a specific mindset, and you'll find that not that doesn't play well in every environment. When I've done that, especially as a leader for bigger teams, it can come across because you can't always control all of the context. And the more people you're interacting with in the situation, the harder it is. As you know, they call it rose colored glasses or Pollyanna or toxic positivity. I hate that. Uh, none of that is none of that is true. It's all perception, but you have to be able to understand the context of it. And so you've got to be careful when you're just throwing that stuff out there, like, oh, I learned something. This didn't go well. You got a nail sticking out of your eye. This is awesome. Not everybody's going to get that. So
That's true.
context is everything.
It's that I mean that's a really great point, is definitely also having self-awareness and also being able to take constructive feedback and not thinking that just because yeah
Yeah.
like that you yeah I feel that for sure.
Not everybody's in the headspace of feedback as a gift. That's a
Yeah.
whole nother level.
Yeah.
And you really start to get into a woo space with that not everybody's going to be comfortable with. So I
Mm.
don't throw that in a professional setting very often. You want to be cautious. Leave that for the consultant. The boss's consultant can say that. I can't say
That sounds like really great advice.
that.
Well, speaking of things that we can use later, you know that we're in Greenland. You also know that this place has a 10,000-foot runway.
Mhm.
Do you have an idea of where we are?
Checking my Greenland history. Uh I no.
Let
I'm
me
going to
give you a
search Greenland
clue.
Airport though. I'm going to search Greenland Airport.
Let me give you a clue about this
I'm so
place.
cheating. It says Nuke, but apparently I'm wrong.
Located approximately This place is located approximately 750 miles north of the Arctic Circle, or the northwestern coast, on the northwestern coast of Greenland. Let me repeat that. This place is located approximately 750 miles north of the Arctic Circle, on the northwestern coast of Greenland.
It's Canuck.
It's-
They call it Tool or Thule or whatever it is. There's
yeah.
a there's a there's a
Well,
roof there's a roof rack company named after it for
um,
cars.
it was so so the name of this place, Thule, actually changed recently. The actual name of it is uh Pidufik.
Kidu Feek. It looks like
Pidufik.
Canuck to me, which would be offensive to my ancestors in Canada.
I'll spell it Pituffik.
Oh, yeah, I got it wrong.
And this is the U.S. military's northernmost installation? It's Space Force.
Holy cow, you have gone so incredibly deep. I was never going to guess that. This is the most arcane
You
reference.
guessed it though.
I mean, I guess.
It was Thule. It was the Thule Air Base, but now it is Space Force renamed it to be the Pidufik
Space Force One.
Space Base.
Space.
Yeah, super cool.
Well, that was cool. I'm glad you picked that. That was fun.
Well, we haven't talked about the military as a career path on
Hmm.
the show until now.
I
So,
didn't even make it a career.
w-
I have
well,
family that did, though.
tell us. Well, okay, so we have a question about this,
Hmm.
but what I would love for you to do is explain what the difference is between pursuing military as a career path and
Hmm.
something else. What is that something else if not a career path?
Well, lots of people go in the military, both commissioned as officers or non commissioned, right? Usually started like a private and you work your way up to some sort of non commissioned rank like sergeant. And there are 10 different levels of sergeant. And everyone that joins the military basically enlists, right? So either you enlist as a non-commissioned or you go in as a commissioned officer, and they have contracts. So there's a period of time in which you are committed. Everyone signs up for 8 years. I don't think a lot of people know that. It's always an 8-year commitment, but it's split up into active and inactive. So your active time is usually negotiated based on your occupation, your what's called an MOS. Like I said, there are acronyms. Your military occupation that oftentimes dictates the length of active duty assignment that is available to you. The more desirable or rare a job, the longer they want you to sign up because they're going to invest more in you in your training. So when your active enlistment is about to end what they call ETS, end time of service, they oftentimes there are different opportunities available to you to re-enlist based on how dense your occupation is. So if you're in infantry, they always need more infantry. They're going to let you re-enlist almost all of the time unless they're trying to draw the force down. If you have a rare occupation like me, which was a 45 Bravo small arms repair, I don't even know if that job still exists, but um, there are only a couple of those on a base. So across the entire army, there are not very many of those jobs. So they made me do 5 years of active duty and 3 inactive. So even when you get out, quote unquote, get out of the army, you're still on in what's called inactive ready reserve for your inactive years that remain on your 8-year enlistment. Commission works a little bit differently and their offers are a little bit different. I don't know all of the details around that because I wasn't commissioned, but um, at some point, what I understand is at some point, even though I separated from the army after my active years were done, I decided to go back home, and change things up. But the people that stick around, there's this point at which you've reenlisted, you're at 7, 8 years, and you're now 30 or so, or 32, and you have to decide, do I want to go to civilian life and start over, or do I want to do 12 more and get to the point where you really start to build on your pension and your investment in the operation as a whole, and it's really starting to invest in you for staying. So those benefits are really great. And I have family members and friends that have retired at the ripe old age of 50 or 45.
Wow.
And they usually get jobs in their occupation with companies that do military contracts like, um, Boeing or Lockheed
Yep.
or, a different manufacturer or security company like, what is it? Black Rock or something like that. Blackwater, I don't remember the name of it. So there are opportunities for retirees who have deep expertise. So they're not starting from scratch like someone who's 30 and just has a few years of job and of experience in that MOS, or sorry, their occupation. So it can vary, but listen, staying in the military, even though I didn't stay and become a retiree and dedicate a longer period of my life to the military, it's a really great career, and the people that I know that have done it have they've all been really happy about it insofar as I understand. And I think that it's a great opportunity for you. It's hard for a family, I think, to be uprooted and have to move around that much. It's for spouses and dependents, it is not always the easiest life, but that's one of the sacrifices that you make when you're doing something bigger than yourself and you're serving the country.
Yeah, I can definitely remember connecting with new people and asking like where they're from, and they'll name 5 or 6 different places they've lived.
Right.
Like, oh, are you a military family? And usually the answer is yep.
Yeah.
So, but being able to travel and see so many different places as well, I think um, also
Yeah.
is a lifestyle of its own.
Yeah. A lot comes out of it.
Yeah. Well, can you talk about some of the key questions young professionals should be asking if they're considering the military as a career path?
Well, I think if you haven't started early with some sort of JROTC or RTC program in, whether you got started post scouts experience, or if you got started in high school or college, um, if you're starting from scratch and you just want to get the hell out of Dodge, or you're curious about travel, you're curious about that lifestyle. Some kids grow up just wanting to join the military, and that's amazing too. So you the recruiting process is interesting, and I think everyone's experience is a little bit different, even though recruiters are really trained to be similar, right? And handle things similarly. And the process is similar on their end. We all handle it a little bit differently. And I think that if it's something you're considering doing, there's really no harm in having that conversation with a recruiter, even if you're younger, and just ask questions and learn about it. Yes, they're going to put you in the database. Yes, you're going to get direct mail for the rest of your life. But if it's something you're considering, the more time you have to consider it, the better you feel about whether or not you wind up doing it. I think doing something hastily that is this dramatic a life change, it would be something I would probably question or not recommend. Like, because it is dramatic. You're going to pack up your stuff and you're going to be off to training on a certain day, and you won't be home again for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, Wayne. I don't know if I could ever go into the military. I like my fluffy blankets and
Fluffy blankets.
yeah, and taking naps in the middle of the day.
No naps. No,
I
that's fair.
am
Yeah.
I'm I struggle with self-discipline. It's
That's
and
where I learned it.
yeah, but how can young professionals know if the military is right for them?
Boy, that's a big question. I don't know specifically because I think everyone's situation is different. I think it's a good choice if you thrive in structure and you are looking to contribute to a cause or an effort that is much bigger than yourself, then I think it's an environment that you can find an opportunity to learn about yourself and excel and meet some great people and do some great things. Um, if if you don't enjoy structure, if that's difficult for you, if you don't take the discipline well, if you don't take feedback well, if you don't like blood, that can be a difficult. Those could be signs that you might struggle. So some of the people that didn't make it through, say, even basic training that were part of my experience there, um, someone passed out in line in front of me when we were getting shots in the arm for, I don't even know what they were. They just shoot you in the arm with shotguns, like pew pew. It's like they give you all kinds of stuff. You got to be inoculated, and and you get like smallpox and all this stuff. So no, they don't. You don't get it. They inoculate it. So
Oh, okay.
polio vaccine if you
I
haven't
thought
had
you
it.
were saying they give you smallpox. Like, these are
Well, like
some
like
real
polio
military
vaccine,
secrets right
it's
now.
tight quarters. They
Gotcha.
can't have polio rip tearing through the thing. So you get like
Yeah,
it
that
it
makes
it,
sense.
and I'm using polio as an example of that. They stopped giving out the polio vaccine to everybody in what, like 70,
Yeah.
69, 70. So okay, so that guy didn't make it through. Obviously, he passed out in there because there was a drop of blood on someone's arm.
Oh,
So they were like, "You got to go to a different line." And the other ones, people couldn't handle the stress, the pressure of being yelled at, or the situations that they put you in. They struggled. They found themselves on a mattress outside of the drill sergeant's army until they can get them a ride the hell out of there. And the other ones that struggle were people that can't work as a team. Like if you have to be first
yeah.
for everything, or you have to be last for everything, that's problematic.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea is work as a team. So you wait for chow, right? Because some other company is not done yet. You're just standing outside, and the drill sergeant is not going to let you stand around doing nothing. He's just going to say, light pole, go. And our job is to just run to that light pole and come back, get back into formation as quickly as we can. But there was a guy who had to be first.
Mm.
He kept being first. And every time he was first, we didn't finish together. The drill sergeant would send us back to the pole, and we were getting exhausted. And at some point, some of us grabbed him and made him finish with us
Wow.
against his will. And then we didn't have to do the running anymore. So being fast wasn't the point, right? It was about togetherness, being a team, thinking together, collaborating. And if you struggle with collaborating, then the military is going to be a tough choice for you.
All right, so I've got three. Fear of blood,
Yeah.
unable to take criticism, feedback, and unable to work as a part of a team. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. And if you're not comfortable getting shot at, it's not going to work.
I think that's
You
I
really learn about people when you're getting shot at.
that's a requirement, guys.
Some
Just
people freak out. They just lock up. They hit the ground. Their eyes get this big, and they just start
I
sweating.
mean, that's scary.
Some people cry. Some
Yeah.
people, some people just walk around eating Pop Tarts, telling everybody what to do. Pop Tarts are contraband when you're fully deployed. By the way, just keep
That
that
would
in
be
mind.
me. um, I would definitely be the Pop Tart.
You got to be cool. You got to be cool under pressure.
um, well, I mean, it sounds like all but maybe two of them, the blood and the getting shot, are also important skills to have in the workplace too. Got to be able to take feedback, and whether it's positive feedback or criticism,
Yeah.
and you have to be able to take it and digest it and not lose it and go off about how right you are and how wrong everyone else is and how you're
Yeah.
being treated unfairly. Um, so you've got to keep a cool head and be able to think proactively and how do I actually apply this feedback? Or if you disagree, you have to be able to disagree in a way that is tactful. Um, and you also have to be able to work in teams too, because when you're in the workforce, it's sure you're getting judged on your individual performance, but a lot of times it's how your performance is impacting the entire team, or
Yeah.
um, you in order for you to improve your individual performance, it may require that you lean on someone else,
Right.
or that you communicate within a team to be able to reach your goals. So um, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and so If young professionals are listening to this right now
Mhm.
and they're like, man, I hear what Wayne's putting down. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. Like, the military is totally for me. What are some steps that they can take to join the military as a career path? And do you have, you talked about you talked about joining the military as a commission and a non-commission. Is there a better way to pursue the military as a career path?
I don't know that one is better than the other. They definitely have different roles and responsibilities, and commissioned officers do make quite a bit more money, and but they also have a lot more responsibility, right? They're literally responsible for people's lives or tons of equipment, right? It that might not be for everyone. So there are college graduates who enlist and become leaders in their own right in the enlisted ranks and become specialists, sergeants, first sergeants, the whole shebang. So I don't know that one is necessarily better than the other, but you'll want to choose based on who you are. Now, not everybody can be a commissioned officer. You have to graduate from college, and you have to have met certain requirements. You have to have certain amounts of prerequisite training, often because only so many commissions are offered. It's much more limited than enlisted. So you may want to get a commission, but if you haven't gone through certain ROTC programs or prerequisite training programs, or West Point or one of these schools where you're already in a military training environment, those people get opportunities to take commissions first, type of thing. I hope I'm stating that right. But I think that, you know, I know we're probably coming up on time, but I will say that the military isn't that different from other career choices when it comes to interpersonal skills and some of the things that you were mentioning, right? Success in a job is very different than success in a career. In a job, you definitely want to learn the skills that you need to be good at the craft. And that's learnable, military or otherwise. Um, the military's got a different way of making sure that you know that stuff than civilians, but yes. So they also make sure you're fit. You have to pass physical fitness
Mm.
exams, like what they call a PT test, or I think it's different in every service, on the regular, and that's fine. But how was I going? Oh yeah, I was going to say that when it comes to career, that's much bigger than craft. And it actually has almost nothing to do with craft, right? Like if you're building a career, then you need to build relationships, right? So lunch, happy hour, these things are as important or more important if you're really trying to build long-term relationships that can return value that you invest in them in the long run, and have that ongoing lifelong exchange of value with other people. Those are the things that get that done, not whether or not you got to report in on time or whether or not you've run a certain speed in your military test or something like that.
Yeah, that's all really great insight. Thank you for sharing that. I think I have a clear idea of what it means to pursue a career versus just a job, right? Um, and it sounds like when we're talking about jobs, we're really talking about skill sets, or we're talking about specific tasks that you learn how to do and you can do them repeatedly. Whereas a
Yeah,
career is more of a buildup, it's a layering, it's a morphing of your talent over time. And so I think that was really deep and insightful. Thank you, Wayne.
I did it again.
We are almost we are almost here at the end of the show. I only have a couple more questions for you. Are you down?
Sure, shoot, let's go.
Cool. Well, actually, the first one is a statistic from USA Facts. So listen to this.
Okay.
The Department of Defense said it faces unprecedented recruiting challenges as 77% of young adults in the United States are unqualified to serve. At the end of the 2023 fiscal year, three branches reported falling short of their recruitment goals: the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force. The Marine Corps and Space Force were the only branches to meet their recruitment goals. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the Army and the Navy are huge. The Army specifically is huge. I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people. So, what does fall short mean? Like they missed it by 4%, and we're talking about 30,000 people, or is it like I don't really know, but I will say that um, it's probably getting easier to find people who are technically proficient,
Mm.
given how much access we have and the proliferation of computers and video games and things that have really helped from a technological standpoint. But finding people to do grunt work, bang out tires on trucks, that's, you've got to be physically fit to do that. You can't be sitting at home playing video games, eating Cheetos, and expect to just walk into a job where they're going to ask you to walk, 10 miles a day.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it sounds like, and I'm trying to find the numbers for you, but the numbers for the recruitment gap was about 30% on either side. So one was 77%, one was about 70%, the other was about 80%. Um, but it sounds like maybe our generation, our priorities maybe have changed, as in terms of, when you said it might be easy to find someone who is really technologically advanced
Right.
and maybe is a whiz on the computer, but they're out of shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well, you take a test. Like when you
yeah.
join, you take this sort of general test. It's like a really light SAT. It's like an IQ test type of thing, right? Um, uh, I don't know what they call it now. I'm sure there's a different test. When I joined, it was called your GT score, another acronym. And I scored really high, right? Even though I didn't go to college, I never took books home when I was in high school. I didn't give a crap about getting good grades. But I just showed up and did well on the test, and they said, "Oh, you get a." The recruiter came into the room with a face like, "Whoa, you're getting a really good job, pal." Like, I, I don't know if today's kids, this generation, and I'm not going to get all kids these days don't know. No, the kids these days are the best people we've ever had. I will say that the challenges that they face is technology in the military is probably growing and expanding so rapidly, probably more rapidly than we're experiencing civilian life when you think about the systems that they have to update. And finding enough people that can support the changes that they're experiencing and going through and still get the other jobs done. That's kind of what I was implying when I was talking about, look, we need grunts too. We need people to just know how to load a howitzer or cannon on a gigantic battleship or a aircraft carrier. We need mechanics. They need people that fix tires on trucks. They need people to turn wrenches on diesel engines because those things still are what makes the whole thing go.
and and so it sounds like, w- and this is a perspective we've talked about contract working on the show, but
Mm.
vocational schools as a career path, or going and getting a trade, or learning to work with your hands, or in construction, like those are viable career paths as well, and also very valuable, as we need homes to live in, right? um and so I would love to have a conversation about that sometime in the future, about what that
Yeah,
would actually look like.
yeah. The whole craft industry or series of industries are great careers, and these are great small businesses. And just like in the military, not everybody falls into those as frequently as maybe they did back in my day. I went to vocational high school, and all of these shops were like electrical, plumbing, graphic design, and different, food services, dental services. And I took drafting. I drew on a board with a pencil houses and gears and things like that. So, yeah, it's hard to say from a military standpoint to have too much of a. I don't have too much insight into what those numbers are, what they're recruiting, but my gut tells me that there is definitely a different landscape of civilians, young civilians who may not match the needs.
Yeah. I actually have some numbers for you, but I'm just going to rattle them off. So it looks like, and these are from 2023, so a year ago. The Army expected to recruit 55,000 new soldiers in 2023, 10,000 short of its goal. The Air Force expected a 10,000 person shortfall, and the Navy also expects to be 6,000 shy of its goal. So 55,000 new in addition to what's already, that is massive. All right, well, Wayne, we are here at the end of our show, and I only have one more question for you. And it's a question that we ask everyone who comes on the show. That is, how would you describe success?
Success to me is a feeling. It is micro accomplishments. I think sometimes we set goals. I'm not a big goal setter, a goal fan, because they're too easy to miss because life happens while you're on that path. So I'm a bigger fan of saying I've established some directional forces. And what I'm going to do is celebrate each success or milestone or accomplishment along the way, and take a minute to sip it and savor it and enjoy it, because you only get one ride and we're all going to die soon. So success is feeling like you know what you're going to do or know what you've done before the ride's over.
I love that, Wayne.
I
Well,
could
with
be
that,
dramatic.
that was very dramatic.
It's true though.
It is. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to die that soon. I hope not.
Two things are true. We were
Tackle.
all born and we're all going to die. And I made balloons by,
Yeah, that was really cool.
I didn't see that coming. I thought I turned that off.
Well, Wade, it was such a pleasure having you on the show today. I learned a lot, and I know our viewers gained so much value from this conversation. Um, I look forward to keeping in touch with you. Can you tell our viewers how they can learn more about you, how they can connect with you, where they can follow you?
Yes. This was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I had so much fun. Um, yeah, you can find me at WaynePelletier.com or ResonantPixel.co, the company I founded that helps, rescue businesses from WordPress.
There are a lot of businesses that need rescuing from WordPress, by the
Oh
way.
my God, so many.
Well, with that, guys, we are out.
Thank you.